Hello everyone, my name is Milan. I'm a learning assistant for CS 210 and I am here to talk to you today about doc tests. Now what are doc tests? They are a way of testing your code by embedding test cases within your doc string. They are a module that's a Python built-in, so they kind of come with the whole Python suite. And they're a super simple way to write documentation for your code as well as embedding tests within your code. So let's start off by creating a Python file called yourfile.py. Now, if you're following along, you're also going to have import doctest. Ignore everything in my code that is commented out right now. There are two ways of using the doctest module. Now, the first way is to import it by using this. Now, I've set up a little function for us to play around with called multiply. So if you're following along, make sure that you have just the multiply. All you really need in the doc string is this right here. Right here with these prompt lines, these prompts. These are our doc tests. So we have our calling the function, we have our two arguments, and we have our expected output. Now, if this very intentionally buggy code gives us something that isn't our expected output, the doc test is going to tell us. So once you have all of this written down, we're going to head down here, and we see right here, if name is equal to main, doctest.testmod. Now this line right here is just to make sure that the file that you are on is the file that you are running. So if you were to take this file and import it onto another Python file, this doctest.testmod would not run. So let's just run this and see what we get. All right, make the terminal a little bit bigger. As you can see, we have a detailed report. We have our failed example, what it expected to get and what it actually got. So this is very helpful for debugging. And we can see that 2 of 2 doc tests had failures in multiply. So now we can go back, check out what we did wrong, and try to solve this. And let's see what we get with our doctest.testmod now that we've fixed our function. Look at that, we get nothing. So this is a very helpful way of running through your code and just making sure that you're on the right path. You can set them up long before you have any code to test, which is very helpful. Now we're going to move on to the second method, doc tests. I'm going to comment out the doctest.testmod, and I am also going to comment out this just for clarity. We can keep it there and it won't do anything, but just to make sure that you guys understand that this is not what is performing the doc tests, I will comment that out as well. So let's get our code back to intentionally buggy. Right? And I'm going to take this line down here. I'll explain it in just a moment. I'm going to trash this. And I am going to run this to get our terminal to pop up. And then right here, I'm going to paste in python 3/m doctest yourfile.py. So this right here is basically what is going to execute our doc test. I have Python 3, which if you do not have a 3 in front of your Python version, you're just going to do python -m doctest and then yourfile.py. Now this right here is just what you're going to input as the file that you want to perform a doc test on. So I'm going to change the name depending on what file you're on. Let's run this, see what we get. Same detailed report. And let's try this again with our correct code. We're going to save this and then run it one more time. And then throw this in again, and we get absolutely nothing because our code is running smoothly. All right, so now that we understand these two ways of doing doc tests, I also want to add an extra note about the second way specifically. If you get an error message about how it can't find your file, that usually means that the folder that you've put into VS Code is not the folder that is directly in it. So if I have a folder in a folder and I bring the outside folder into VS Code and I'm testing a Python file on one of the inside folders, I'm going to get an issue because it's going to have a hard time pinning down where that file is. So a way of getting around this is by using this. cd / and then your file pathway all the way to whatever file you are actively on. Alright, now I have commented out our first multiply function, and I have added back our import doctest, because I want to show you guys a few other features that doctest has to offer. So in this function, multiplying, make sure that you have all of this down specifically exactly as is if you're following along. Also our intentionally buggy code. We brought back our doctest.test mod because it's just a more simple way, in my opinion, of showing this. Now I want to show you what these underscores do to our doc tests, along with this comment doctest : plus skip. So first, starting off with these underscores. This underscore just serves as whatever previous output came. So our previous output in our doc test in this case would be our 6. So we'll take 6 in place of the underscore and put those in the argument. So of course our expected output would be 36. This is just a way to kind of chain together some of the arguments if you'd like to do that for certain tests. Yeah, and then our second fun little added bonus of doc tests in Python is this skip. So if you have a doc test that you're doing and you're more concerned about one specific doc test that you want to test, but you still want to keep this documentation, you can use this comment doctest : plus skip in order to skip over this doc test, and it will tell you directly that it's skipping over this, just so you can focus on some earlier ones. Now, one thing to keep note of is it will not tell you that it has skipped over it if all of the rest of your code is working fine. So if this code is working perfectly fine and I execute this, I won't get any notice that it did skip this doc test. But if our code is buggy, then as you can see, we have our one skip test. So this can be helpful if you are more focused on a different test, lots of applications. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. Happy coding!